Students, greetings and welcome back to the Heath. This is Macbeth, Act 1, Scene 5. I'm going to summarise briefly this long scene. You'll remember that Macbeth has been commended in battle. Then he's been promoted to Thane of Cawdor by the king. You'll also remember that he runs into three witches, or he encounters three witches with Banquo. And they inform him that eventually he's going to be promoted to Thane of Cawdor and then king. And then you also remember the king made that prophecy come true by giving him said promotion. Now, what does Macbeth do after that? He leaps onto his horse and races to his wife at Inverness Castle. King Duncan is following on horseback, a slightly slower horse, because he is a guest of Macbeth this evening, and he's going to be attending him and Lady Macbeth at dinner. So, meanwhile, Lady Macbeth is reading a letter from Macbeth, and the scene opens with Lady Macbeth reading the letter that you have been sent, and the letter reads as follows. They met me in the day of success, and I've learned by the perfectest report they have more in them, this means the witches, they have more in them than mortal knowledge. When I burned in desire to question them further, they made themselves air, so they vanished, into which they vanished. Whilst I stood rapt, which means amazed in wonder, came missives, a message from the king, who all hailed me Thane of Cawdor, by which title before these weird sisters saluted me. So just as promised, I was promoted to Thane of Cawdor, and referred me to the coming on of time with hail, king that shall be. This I have thought good to deliver thee, my dearest partner of greatness, that thou mightst not lose the dues of rejoicing. So what does Lady Macbeth, what does she have to celebrate? Well, she's a woman in Jacobean England, which means that she's either expected to marry or become a nun. She has no political power of her own, so she isn't allowed to really have a job. So if Macbeth is promoted to king, she leaps up the social ladder, up that great chain of being, to become a queen. So let me take you now to Inverness Castle and show you how Lady Macbeth responds to that letter. By the power of technology, we are able to arrive at Inverness Castle. There on the battlements is Lady Macbeth, reading her husband's letter. In response, she turns to the sky and says, the raven is hoarse. Now, ravens were superstitiously known as birds associated with death or bad luck. So she hears a raven and says, the raven himself is hoarse, which croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan under my battlements. So Lady Macbeth is expecting Duncan, and she's already starting to think about taking a shortcut or the nearest path to becoming king. Why wait for the promotion? Why wait for fate to promote Macbeth when she could perhaps engineer an accident? She asks spirits to unsex her, which means to give her masculine aggression, masculine strength, and remove those feminine graces of delicacy and obedience. Make her manly, make her aggressive. Interestingly, she's also asking spirits for this advice, which suggests that she's involving witchcraft. So meanwhile, Macbeth arrives. Here he is approaching the gatehouse, fresh from his horse journey, and he encounters his wife, who says, I think, Macbeth, you should take the nearest path to becoming king. It's good news, but I think you can be a little more aggressive, and you should look like a flower, but be the serpent underneath it. Don't be cowardly. We can do this. We can engineer a promotion. We don't have to wait for the witch's prophecy to come true. We can make it come true. And Macbeth simply turns away and says, We'll talk about this later, I think. That is Act 1, Scene 5.